Unajua guys, nacheka nini? Raila Odinga ameona ya kwamba anaenda kukosa hizi weekly salary kutoka kwa William Samoei Arap Ruto, the president of the Republic of Kenya. So ameamua commanding Edwin Sifuna kama general secretary wa ODM party kwenda kuapologize to William Samoei Arap Ruto. Hii ni command hii. And I can tell you that Raila Odinga alikuwa amesense kwamba William Ruto anaenda ku withdraw hizi do ambazo huwa anapewa weekly. Every Saturday and Sunday Raila Odinga kuna mamilioni huwa anapokea. So baada ya Edwin Sifuna kuweza kushambulia rais pale na wakaweza kumeet na Raila Amolo Odinga in Kakamega during ODM party meeting. Utakuja kurealize kwamba Edwin Sifuna, Raila Odinga defended Edwin Sifuna. After that, Oscar Sudi akabweka, Kimani Chungwa akabweka, close allies wengi wa William Samoei Arap Ruto wakabweka. So William Ruto pia akabweka. Why is it that ama jamaa wanani shambulia hivi na wako ndani ya broad based government and Raila Odinga is supporting Edwin Sifuna? So Raila Odinga metense sending Edwin Sifuna aweze kuapologize. Sikiza.
It's fine. You okay?
Can you guys hear this?
We can go? Thank you. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the Central Committee of ODM. We have met here under the chairmanship of the party leader, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, to review the state of the nation, current developments in the party, and in particular the MOU with the UDA and support for the broad-based government. After frank and open deliberations, the committee adopted the following resolutions as the party's collective message to members and to the country. Number 1, that the party supports the position that has been taken by party leader Honorable Raila Odinga to work with the Kenya Kwanza administration to stabilize the country and create an enabling environment for Kenyans to address their concerns through democratic and constitutional means. Number 2, that in order to expedite the implementation of the 10-point agenda of the MOU, ODM will constitute a technical team to work with our UDA counterparts as part of the political infrastructure to assist with the implementation of the agreement. The committee has identified the absence of such a technical committee, which is actually contained in the MOU, as the missing link in the implementation of the MOU. Of great concern is the full implementation of the NADCO report, promotion and protection of the livelihoods of young people, the right to peaceful assembly and protest, the rule of law and constitutionalism, corruption and wastage of public resources. Thirdly, that while the party acknowledges the allocation of 415 billion to counties in the current financial year as an improvement on the previous disbursement, we will continue pushing for the raising of the allocation to a minimum 450 billion Kenya shillings or more, as had been proposed by party leader Raila Amolo Odinga. Fourthly, that the party continues to demand the implementation of the unbundling of all devolved functions and the requisite and constitutionally sanctioned resources to the counties. Number 5, that the party supports calls for an intergenerational national conclave to deliberate on the issues affecting the nation with particular focus on youth agenda and agree on a way forward. Number 6, that the party will continue with grassroots elections and programs for the ODM at 20 celebrations as part of the process of regeneration, reorganization, and internal strengthening. Lastly, that while members arrived here with different viewpoints on many issues within the party and the country, the committee has succeeded in brokering an unbreakable unity of purpose in the party and a single-minded focus on ensuring that ODM continues to be a loyal servant of the people and the country, acting in the best interest of its supporters and nation, and committed to the agenda of national transformation and stability. Lastly, we have been presented with a schedule of all upcoming by-elections, and the resolution of this committee is that ODM will fully participate in all of those by-elections by fielding candidates. I thank you, members of the press. I will take a few questions, but they have to be strictly within the discussion that has gone on today. And I see very respectable media houses here. We don't expect you to bring us rumors.
Thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim Kananja from NTV.
Now that the ODM candidates, I thank you, members of the press. I will take a few questions, but they have to be strictly within the discussion that has gone on today. And I see very respectable media houses here. We don't expect you to bring us rumors.
Thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim Kananja from NTV. Now that the ODM party has taken a position from this particular meeting, it goes against your own conviction.
Yeah, that is exactly what I feared, that you would bring stories about Sifuna when I have read a statement about ODM. We want you to ask questions about ODM.
You are the Secretary General of ODM. Does this change your position?
What is different?
You will be required to speak the position of the party, which is against your own conviction.
Now, the position of the party, as the party leader has ably explained before, is taken after organs or meetings of the organs of the party. And this is now the position of the party. Yes, that we will be making sure that we put together a team that can ensure that we implement the MOU that we signed with UDA. How is that different from Sifuna's position? Let's have another question, please. Let's not do Mushene. Yes?
Maybe the Chungwa supporters across the country will want to know whether this Central Management Committee meeting today has literally now got all the voices so that the party speaks in one voice with regard to the progress of government.
Yeah, so that I don't put in my own words, allow me to read you the last paragraph again. I think we have addressed that, Leto. You should pay attention to these things. We have said that while members arrived here with different viewpoints on many issues within the party and the country, the committee has managed to broker an unbreakable unity of purpose in the party and a single-minded focus on ensuring that ODM continues to be a loyal servant of the people and the country, acting in the best interest of its supporters and the nation, and committed to the agenda of national transformation and stability. That is now the position of the party. Any other question? I think wamemaliza sasa maswali yote. Haya. Asante sana. Mungu awabariki.
And the critical question of followership in Africa. And the Africa that I talk about is the post-colonial Africa. The Africa which is now divided into 55 countries with 55 boundaries imposed on her. An Africa which is famous as the cradle of mankind. An Africa which is said to be great in prospect. An Africa about which there is much expectation. But an Africa which continues to punch below her weight. That is the Africa that I will be talking about as I focus on the question of leadership and followership. As I think about that Africa and her leadership and followership, and I think about her often, as all of us should, the words of a book that I read as a youngster come to mind. And any one of us who had the opportunity of reading the book A Tale of Two Cities will remember these words. It was the time, the best of times and the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom and the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief and the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light and the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope and the winter of despair. Those words define the mother continent as we live in her today. Those who commentate about the continent never tire to say that this is a great continent. Those who care about this continent never tire to remember that this continent, divided as she is, has had many leaders. And when I allow my mind to go down memory lane, I can remember so very vividly the immortal words of many great African leaders on the eve of our regaining our independence. And many of us can see pictures of young Africans, whether in Nigeria or Ghana or Algeria or Kenya or Tanzania celebrating when we regained our independence. And many of us can remember the words that they spoke and the promises that they made. If it was in Nigeria here, you can remember the immortal words about what they would do to Nigeria of Nnamdi Azikiwe. You can remember those words. You can remember the words of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. You can remember the promises he made. You can remember the erudite words of the Sultan of Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello, and the promises he made, and many others. When they spoke then, those who were young saw in them the similitude of Moses in the Bible. They thought of their leaders and saw their leaders as messiahs who would bedazzle latter-day pharaohs with miracles, who would liberate them from the Egypt of poverty and want, who would cause pillars of fire to stand between them and sorrow and want, who would part the Red Seas of tribalism and ethnicity, who in times of hunger would summon manna and quail from heaven. That is what they thought of their leaders, messiahs. But today, permit me to say, in many African countries, they are saying, it was better while we waited. It was better while we waited. There is a sense in which throughout the continent of Africa, there has been disappointment with leaders at all levels. So that when on the eve of independence, we wanted to come home, now that we regained independence, we never tire to see images of our young men and women dying in the Sahara, dying in the Mediterranean Sea, being humiliated at the embassies of the erstwhile colonizers as they seek to leave our countries and the continent. It was better while we waited, they say. Which begs the question, what happened and what is happening? That we have so many individuals who occupy positions of leadership, and yet the biggest deficit is that of leadership in Africa. You know, in 1983, your own countryman, the late Chinua Achebe, wrote a little book which he could well have been writing about Africa, but he focused on Nigeria, the trouble with Nigeria. And Chinua, without mincing words, says, the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a problem of leadership. Whether you agree or disagree with Chinua, that is another debate. But he had his perspective. And he was asking a question that we continue to ask about the continent of Africa. Why is it that while on average 60 years after we regained independence, the 55 countries that constitute the continent of Africa, why is it that we cannot feed ourselves? Why is it that we have no faith in our institutions? We have no faith in our hospitals. Why is it that we have no faith in our education systems? Why is it that we have no faith in our abilities? Why is it? Where has the leadership been? Why is it that so many years, while politics becomes the toy that lulls us into a false sense of security, our economies are controlled by people from other civilizations? Why is it? These are uncomfortable questions which we must pose and confront and answer if the mother continent is to realize our potential. Why is it that the mother continent is ever so negatively attractive to other civilizations? You know, as I talk about leadership, and as I think about leadership, and I think about what leaders are enjoined to do, I think about this mother continent. And many times, I see how our men and women in positions of leadership are being treated by other civilizations. And I said, oh God, where are our leaders? When the world congregates under the G7, there are no African leaders there. The best they can do is to invite one or two. And beyond the photo opportunity, they are told to go away, and go away they do. When there is a meeting of the G20, it is the same thing. There is no African leader there. And when at the United Nations they have voted all our countries, France, the United States, China, Russia, can come and neutralize all our votes. And I say, where are the leaders in Africa? And as you observe African leadership today, they are summoned by different leaders in the world. If the Japanese do not summon them to Tokyo under UNCTAD, the Indians are summoning them to New Delhi. And if the Indians are not summoning them, the Turks are summoning them. And if the Turks are not summoning them, the Chinese are summoning them. In the next 2 weeks, they will have been summoned to the United States of America. Summoned, I use. Africans who are watching this scenario ask, where are our leaders? Which begs the question, who is a leader? Is leadership the occupation of office? Is leadership the occupation of the office of the president? Is it the occupation of the office of a senator or a member of parliament? Or the occupation of these high-sounding positions which gives us honorifics? Is that what leadership is? From where I sit, that is pseudo-leadership. From where I sit, leadership is about service. Leadership is about honor and privilege to serve. That is why I still understand the men of old, the men of wisdom who said, he who is greatest amongst you must be your servant. This is what Africa is asking for. And Africa has been asking this question since she regained her independence. You know, when one is talking about leadership in Africa, one must go into history and ask ourselves, what was leadership before we were rudely disrupted? We had our traditional rulers. How did they govern? For whose benefit did they govern? They are still there, the traditional rulers. How do they fit in the new dispensation? When we regained independence and adopted all these structures from the erstwhile colonizer, what did we expect to deliver? That great American Pan-Africanist John Hendricks Clark says that when Africans regained their independence, not a single one of them re-examined the style of leadership All of them continued with a mimicry of the leadership that they inherited from the colonizer.